It was a cold February morning in 1957 when a quiet neighborhood in Philadelphia became the stage for one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. Hidden among the trees and the undergrowth, a large cardboard box sat silently, unremarkable to anyone passing by except that inside it lay the lifeless body of a young boy, barely old enough to attend first grade. No one knew his name, where he had come from, or what horrors he had endured before that tragic day. The discovery sent shockwaves through the city, leaving residents and authorities alike grappling with questions that had no answers. Who was this child? Who could commit such a cruel act? And why had he been abandoned to such a lonely fate? Even decades later, the boy's story continues to captivate, disturb, and puzzle investigators and the public alike. A chilling reminder that some mysteries refuse to fade with time. On the chilly afternoon of February 25, 1957, the quiet woods of Fox Chase, Philadelphia, seemed like any other. A local man had wandered into the thicket to check on his muskrat traps, a routine he had done countless times before. As he moved through the undergrowth, his eyes caught a large cardboard box lying carelessly among the brush. At first glance, it looked like discarded trash, nothing unusual for an area where people often dumped unwanted belongings. He gave it no second thought and walked away, never realizing what terrible secret it held inside. Hours later, another passerby, a young man traveling the same stretch of road, noticed the same box. Unlike the first, curiosity got the better of him. He stepped closer, brushed away the weeds, and opened the flaps of the container. What he found would change the course of his life and the city's history forever. Inside lay the body of a small boy, believed to be no more than 4 to 6 years old. The child was unclothed, his fragile frame wrapped in a thin blanket, and his tiny body had been placed carefully inside the cardboard box, one that had once contained a baby's bassinet. The discovery sent a chill through the young man. Within moments, what had begun as a quiet walk had become the start of one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries. When authorities arrived at the scene and examined the child more closely, the true weight of the tragedy began to unfold. The boy's small body showed unmistakable signs of neglect. His hair had been cut in a rough, uneven manner, as though someone had taken shears to it in haste. Strands of freshly cut hair still clung to his skin, suggesting the attempt had been recent, perhaps an effort to make him harder to recognize. As investigators studied him further, they saw just how frail he was. His frame was thin, his appearance malnourished, as if he had endured long periods without proper care or nourishment. Dark marks and bruises covered parts of his body, silent evidence that he had suffered more than just abandonment. There were also small scars, faded but telling, hinting that the hardships he faced had not been sudden, but stretched over time. It was in these heartbreaking details that the police began to sense a much deeper, more disturbing story, one that suggested the boy's short life had been marked not by love and safety, but by prolonged suffering that no child should ever have endured. Shaken by the discovery, Philadelphia police immediately launched one of the largest investigations the city had ever seen. Detectives knew that finding out who the boy was would be the first step toward uncovering what had happened to him. They ordered his photograph to be taken and reproduced on thousands of flyers, which were distributed across neighborhoods, stores, and public buildings. The effort went even further. His image was printed directly onto gas bills, reaching households all across the region, ensuring that nearly every family in Philadelphia would see the child's face staring back at them. For weeks, officers followed every lead, waiting for someone to recognize him, for a mother, a father, or a relative to step forward and claim the boy. But as days turned into weeks, the silence was deafening. Despite the unprecedented publicity, not a single person came forward. The boy remained nameless, and the mystery surrounding him only deepened. As the investigation pressed forward, detectives widened their search beyond Philadelphia. They pored over missing children reports from across the entire nation, hoping to find even the slightest match. Yet, to their dismay, every file they opened only deepened the mystery. There was no report, no record, no child that fit the boy's description. It was as if he had never existed in the official world. Attention then turned to the cardboard box itself. Investigators traced it back to a local Jock's Penny store, where the container had once held a baby's bassinet. But that promising lead quickly unraveled. Records from the store were incomplete, and without names or receipts, the trail went cold. The box, which had seemed like a vital clue, revealed nothing about who had purchased it or why it ended up abandoned in the woods. Meanwhile, Dozens of tips flooded in the police station, phone calls, letters, and walk-ins from people convinced they knew the child or his story. Each one was followed diligently, but time after time, the results were the same: false leads, dead ends, and disappointment. With every unanswered question, the boy's identity slipped further into the shadows, and the case grew colder by the day. With official leads drying up, speculation began to fill the void. One of the earliest and most persistent theories centered on a nearby foster home. Some believed the boy might have come from there, hidden away from the public eye until his tragic end. Investigators looked into the possibility, but despite the whispers and suspicions, nothing concrete was ever found to link the child to that home. Another theory suggested a far more personal connection, that the boy had been abandoned by his own family. The idea that relatives could leave him behind, unwilling or unable to claim him, haunted both detectives and the community. Yet again, no evidence surfaced to prove the claim, and the boy remained unrecognized. As the years passed, the case drew the attention of not just law enforcement, but also psychics, amateur detectives, and crime writers, each offering their own explanations. Some crafted elaborate stories, others swore they had visions of the child's final days. Still, every theory, no matter how compelling it sounded, crumbled under the weight of investigation. None could be verified, leaving the boy's identity and the truth of what happened to him locked away in silence. As the investigation stretched on without answers, the nameless boy began to take on an identity of his own in the eyes of the public. He became known simply as the boy in the box and, more tenderly, as America's unknown child. These names captured both the mystery and the deep sadness of his story, marking him as a symbol of all the children who had been lost and forgotten. In the years that followed, the boy was laid to rest at Ivy Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia. His grave became more than just a final resting place. It grew into a quiet sanctuary where strangers, moved by his story, would come to leave flowers, toys, and tokens of remembrance. For people who never knew his name, this simple act was a way of saying that he was not alone, and that his short life had not been forgotten. The case itself left a lasting mark on the city and the nation. It haunted professional investigators who had spent their careers searching for the truth, as well as ordinary citizens who could never shake the image of the boy in the box. Over time, his story came to symbolize something greater: the tragedy of neglected and voiceless children, and the painful reminder that some mysteries refuse to fade, no matter how many decades pass. For decades, investigators refused to let the case grow silent. As science advanced, they turned again and again to the tools available: fingerprint comparisons, forensic reconstructions, and later, the emerging promise of DNA testing. Each new attempt carried hope, yet time and time again, the results came back empty, leaving the mystery as impenetrable as ever. In more recent years, with breakthroughs in genetic genealogy, investigators made a bold decision. The boy's remains were exhumed so that modern DNA analysis could be conducted. For the first time in decades, there was a glimmer of renewed hope that perhaps his true name, his family, and his story could finally be uncovered. The idea that technology might succeed where human effort had failed gave strength to those who had never given up on him. Finally, after 65 years, the boy in the box has a name: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. For decades, he was known only as America's unknown child, a tragic symbol of one of the nation's most haunting mysteries. Thanks to advances in technology and relentless efforts by investigators, his identity was revealed in 2022, bringing a measure of closure to a case that had remained unsolved since 1957. Yet while his name is now known, the truth about who was responsible for his death and why remains hidden in the shadows of history. And so, the mystery of the boy in the box remains both solved and unsolved at the same time. His name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, has been restored, giving him back the dignity of an identity that was lost for more than 6 decades. His story, once just a tragic headline, is now connected to a real child with a family, a past, and a legacy. Yet the unanswered questions continue to haunt the case: who was responsible for his suffering, what circumstances led to his death, and why his small body was left abandoned in such a cruel way. The discovery of his name has brought a sense of humanity and remembrance, ensuring Joseph will never again be forgotten. But it also serves as a stark reminder that justice has not yet been served. His story calls on us to remember the voiceless, to pursue the truth even after decades of silence, and to keep hope alive that one day, the full story of Joseph Augustus Zarelli will finally come to light. If you found this story compelling and would like to hear more mysteries from history that continue to captivate the world, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Together, we can keep these voices alive and, perhaps, one day, help bring long-awaited answers to light.